Welcome, everyone, to the After Action Report, a podcast from the Eden Project. I'm one of your hosts today. My name is Michael Stewart, and this is my friend, my co-host, and the executive director of the Eden Project, Bren Briggs. Hey, Bren.
How's it going today?
It is wonderful. Now, this episode is recorded at Rome at Trillith, designed to re-inspire work and meetings. Rome partners with you to create a better workday for you and your team with elevated office environments, productive workspaces, and an all-inclusive meeting rooms throughout the entire area. And we're grateful that we could be here.
It's fantastic here. Do you remember our other office? Did you ever go to the other office?
Which one? I feel like we've gone to a few places.
The one that was on Bradford Street in Fayetteville.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, nothing like this place.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. Totally different.
People love this here. I'll come here sometimes just to sit and drink coffee and people watch.
Oh, yeah. Rome is a great place to do that. You got a little coffee shop downstairs and see all the people that have the offices up here and in and out. So So the Eden Project is a veterans and active military's resource for mental health, helping those who need healthy mental health tools and resources to deal with day-to-day life. Sometimes those resources are outside of mental health, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But today, we are going to discuss a little bit on the mental health. Yep.
Yeah. So we're committed to helping veterans and their families thrive in their post-military life. So if active duty, obviously, we'll help them thrive in their active duty life, but really their time after their service is over. This podcast, a lot like the Eden Project, is really going to focus on the two things we hear the most. It's helping veterans find their purpose or re-find their purpose, identify who they are now after their service is over. We're going to discuss hidden injuries, TBIs and post-traumatic stress and the things that people don't like to talk about. We're going to talk about it. You mentioned mental health. We're going to cover that, wellness practices, relationships, things that people need but don't always want to talk about. But, we're going to cover it. And really, just life after military is over. Like we met someone this morning, we're going to interview people within the veteran community, community leaders on all of these and other current topics. Our goal is to really empower and encourage the listener really to be resilient in their post-military life and really life in general.
Okay. So if by chance a listener has missed our very first podcast, then we're going to recap a little bit right now.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit we talked about last time and why this is so important to me and why I am so passionate about this. I spent 28 years in the military. I was active duty Marine enlisted for the first 8 years, took a few months off and then got a direct commission and spent another 20 years in the Army. I've got multiple deployments. I got out after 28 years of service, spent another couple of years, doing or trying my hand at civilian life. That didn't go so well. And then I got back into serving and working with veterans and have been doing that for the last 8 years. So that was kind of a quick recap, but that's really where the passion to serve our veteran community comes from.
So when we talk about things like getting people reintegrated with life and the things that they have to go through, especially after whatever they've been through in the military, whether they're still active or just now fresh out, or if they've been let's just say a veteran from long ago. Yeah. What does that look like? I mean, what's entailed in that?
In the getting back to life again?
Yeah, I'm like, what we talk about as far as what the Eden Project does versus other organizations.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. So we really focus on giving people tools to be successul in life. A lot of organizations will provide events or maybe help them find a job, and then once they have the job, they move on. But there's way more to it than that. The two things that people generally look for after they leave the military is their purpose and their identity. When we're in the military, we know what our job is or our mission. That's what we call it in the military. We know what the mission was. Our whole life and career was based around that. But now that we're out, that purpose or mission isn't as clear and as obvious. So we really focus on that part of it. And, face it, when you're a Marine, you're a Marine. When
Right.
you're in the Army, that's your identity. Once people are out, they start to they've lost that, and they look for that. So really, that's where the Eden Project and this podcast is going to come in and help people re-find and rediscover that stuff.
I had somebody once tell me where it seemed similar to, say, somebody who's been married for 50 years, and then all of a sudden they lose a spouse. Their whole life was built around that, and then it's kind of like, how do I continue to go on now just with me? I have to find myself and discover me without that particular person or that thing or what I've had in my life, right?
That's a great example, and it's a great way to tie in. Our target audience is the veteran community, but the things we're going to talk about fit everybody, and that's probably one of the best examples to say, who am I? Who's my identity? What's my identity? And who am I now, and how these tools fit the person you're talking about, but also obviously our veterans.
Exactly. And also to remember, because it's easy to forget that maybe this person is dealing with something, but everybody around them in their life is dealing with it too.
Absolutely.
Not as much as maybe the person themselves, but they have to deal with the fallout from whatever comes from that person. That's the spouse, the kids, the parents, whoever it may be, correct? Work, bosses, so on and so forth.
Well, there's a term, it's a relatively new term, but it's secondary post-traumatic stress. So I go through an event and I'm traumatized and am trying to deal with that. Well, the fallout from that, the anger, the isolation, the substance abuse and whatever else affects, like you just said, everybody around. So absolutely, what you're saying.
So I think everybody can see why we think this podcast, an expansion of the Eden Project, is very, very important, and it's timely. Pretty much listen to this.
Yeah. So, we've been kicking this around for several months, and the Eden Project's been around for 8 years now. And one of the things that you have to ask yourself is there an audience for this, or who's going to care about this? Just because I'm passionate, is there enough? Is there a big enough audience? Well, we think there is. So the Veterans Administration, the VA, tells us that there's 18 million veterans who live in the U.S. right now. Of that 18 million, about 3 million vets served in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is the one that really hits home to me, and why I think this is such a pertinent topic now. 1 in 5 vets, or about 20%, deal with post-traumatic stress. And this is kind of a bigger number, but somewhere between 11 and 23% of all those vets have a traumatic brain injury.
TBI. Wow. So the transition from military and post-military, or to the post-military, I mean, that can be a very difficult journey for a lot of people, and it's personal for you.
It is. So, just a regular military career is difficult in itself, because, most of our vets or military people join when they're 18. They go in the military, and the formative years of their adult life are shaped around the principles and concepts of the branch that they're serving in. So they become, what the Marine Corps wants them to become, or what the Army, Air Force, Space Force, or whatever. So they become that. And whether they're serving 2 years or 22 years, that's their life. And that in itself is difficult. But you add in combat tours, you add in some type of injury, and it makes that transition, like you said, even more difficult. We talked about before the show, I deal with post-traumatic stress. It's not something that, for a long time it was, I'm going to hide this or try to hide this.
Right.
But you can't hide it. It's something that you deal with. I had 4 brain injuries while I was in the military. My last 2 years that I spent in the Army, I spent in a traumatic brain injury clinic. So this is personal to me. It's I'm living it myself, and I've worked with other vets around me. So yeah, this is personal.
Yeah. Personal, and I say this in a lighthearted way. You have experience in all of the things that you're helping to deal or other people to deal with.
Yeah. So I'm the 28 years in uniform, and then the 8 years post-military.
Right.
Working with other vets and saying, okay, here's how I got through this. Watching other folks and listening to them, how they get through this. I just want to share that with these guys and gals who may be looking for something and need that thing, but don't know what that thing is.
Right. So some of the ways that you have to help people is, you've put together programs. We have things on the websites that's available to it. But let's talk about that path to healing.
Yeah.
And the, what do you call it?
The 4 pillars.
Yeah, there you go. The 4 pillars.
Again, watching people heal, and then on the opposite side, watching them struggle. Mm-hmm. We observed and saw that there are 4 things that those who are going to survive, actually going to thrive, had kind of 4 things in common. The ones who were missing any of these 4 things tended to not do so well. The 4 things that the Eden Project is based on, and really what's going to be behind our podcast, a strong support system, a sense of purpose, personal faith, and of course, adequate health care.
Okay, so let's break those down, one by one. The support system.
Yep. So the goal is to create that personal support system. So it can be a spouse, a loved one, a family member. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone in the family. A peer group is a great support system. So we create tools and things that veterans and their families can use to really build up and maintain a strong support system. Okay,
and then a sense of purpose, because like you mentioned earlier, is that some people are like, this is done. What do I have now?
That's right. That's huge. One of the 2 things that we hear the most is veterans have lost their identity, and they don't have a purpose in life anymore. So we really, really focus in on that. We have a 13-week peer program, and our peer program really helps our vets find their new purpose in life. Mm-hmm. It's really the foundation of almost everything else that we do.
And then there's personal faith.
So the Eden Project isn't so we're not faith-based. We're not strictly Christian, Catholic, or whatever else, right. But we do understand and recognize that faith is an integral part of who we are. So we encourage people to find their faith. Mm-hmm. We don't push our religion, but we encourage them to have their own faith in something.
Right. Something that they can have faith in and believe in. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's nice. And then finally, adequate health care, medical care.
Yeah, we don't provide that. We have a lot of partners, and we will help people find what they need in within the medical system. But, if your body is hurting or broke down, some of these other things aren't going to come together. So medical care is huge.
And so when the people are reaching out to the Eden Project for help, and let's just say it is revolving around the mental health, is this something that you share with them in a variety of ways? Is it something that just happens in a phone call? I mean, obviously, you can't fix every problem with one phone call. Hey, right. I got you covered. I know somebody.
Yeah. It generally starts with either a phone call, a text, an email. Mm-hmm. They'll get a hold of us somehow, and generally they start out with something real innocuous like, can you help me with my VA claim? Can you get us, I haven't eaten in a day or 2, or I need help with a power bill. That's how they get in the door, because, men generally, and veterans specifically, don't ask for help. They're not going to reach out and say, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm whatever. They're going to find another reason.
Right.
So they reach out that way first. And from there, then one of our team members will give them a call. And typically within the first 45 minutes or so, we can get into what they really called about. Mm-hmm. And from there, we send them to maybe one of our partners, or we bring them in and they participate in one of our peer groups.
So for those listening, eden-project.com. That's the website. You can take a visit, look around, see the things that we do and what we have to offer. Eden, EDEN-project.com. Now, we've been talking about stats and we talk about what we do when people reach out and all that, but what's something that we can share today for someone who doesn't even have to visit the website?
Yeah.
Some things to help them be a better person.
Yep. So you want to jump into?
I want to jump right into
one of the tools we're talking about.
Yeah, let's do it.
I like that. So one of the things that we started doing early on is journaling. Have you ever journaled?
I've done it a few times,
Yeah.
but if someone were to go back and look at my journaling, it would look like, what happened to these last 2 years? He wrote for 2 weeks and so I wasn't consistent with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I do have people that journal in my life that do it, and they say it's wonderful. It just changes their whole perspective on things.
It's huge. And there's lots of different ways to journal.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those things that we kind of picked up early on. We saw that it was working, but like anything else, it can be done right, really helpful. Mm-hmm. It can also be done in ways that maybe not so helpful. So we have a process called gratitude journaling. There's 1,000 different studies out there. So there's some studies that say that we have about 6,000 thoughts a day.
6,200 if you want to get exact on that one study, right?
That's right. But there's also other studies
Mm-hmm.
that say it's as many as 60,000 thoughts in a day. So it really comes down to how they classify what a thought is. But either way, whether it's 6,000 or 60, that's an awful lot of stuff going through your head.
A lot of stuff happening in the day, and I feel like I think that's low compared to my head.
I'm sure. I've listened to you sometimes. I think your number's even higher than the 60.
The kind of guy.
But what all the studies do agree on is whether it's 6 or 60,000 thoughts, 80% of those thoughts that go through our head are negative. So that means anywhere from 5,000 to 48,000 thoughts in your head are all negative.
Wow. And if you think about that, and I like that you call it gratitude journaling, because you don't want to be the negative journaling. Let's write down every bad thing in your life.
Right.
Because that's not going to get you anywhere.
And that's what some people, started. When I first started journaling, that's what I was taught, was just write what's going on in your head. Well, imagine if 80% of what you're thinking is negative, mm-hmm. Now you start writing down what you're thinking, you're reinforcing those negative thoughts.
Yep.
So first you think it, and then you go through the physical act of writing it down, and then you're going to reread it. So that negative thought has been reinforced 3 times. So we don't do that kind of journaling. We focus on what you said earlier. It's on gratitude journaling.
Well, I'd be a horrible novelist. I mean, in the many jobs that I do, I do a lot of writing, a lot of script writing and things like this. And so after a while, the last thing I want to do at the end of a day is, or at the beginning, right before I'm going to do it, is sit down and write. But if I would want to follow these guidelines and say, okay, how do I do this right to where I actually get something out of it, even if I'm just doing it a few minutes a day, versus sitting down and writing, an hour's worth of writing,
So and that's what we talk about. We work with folks like you. If there are some people that will take, and I've brought in our journal. So this one is mine.
Let me see. Does it have your personal private notes in here?
It does. So we won't share those on this, but I guess you could if you wanted to. But so basically, it's if people want to write novels, mm-hmm. there's a way to just write sentence after sentence after sentence. I'm a bullet point kind of guy. So my thoughts are in just concise bullets, and that's how I journal. But what I do, I'll sit down in the morning. Morning it's the quiet time for me. I make the coffee. I can smell the coffee and enjoy everything about the coffee experience in the first part of my day. The quiet time of the day in the morning for me, I'll sit down just maybe 5 or no more than 10 minutes at a time, and I just focus on the things that either the day before I'm the most grateful for, or maybe that day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's something as simple as, man, I'm glad I have this 5 minutes to journal and drink my coffee.
I like that. So I know different. For me, I wake up in the morning and I start my day as a Christian man. I start my day some Bible reading, some devotionals, and some quiet time praying for other people. That helps me take the focus off of me and my troubles and my worries and concerns and all. And again, your faith, whatever you want it to be, but if you put the focus on someone else, which is that never-ending circle, if you could do it, like if you think about this, if our whole goal, if you and I are in a relationship, if my whole goal is to make sure I'm always trying to please you, I don't know if that's the right word, but to make sure that your needs are met.
Yeah.
And then in your mind, your goal is to make sure my needs are met.
Yep.
Think about what a wonderful cycle that would be in that one relationship. And if we do this throughout our whole day with everybody that we meet, that makes for a better world anyway. So a better world helps you be a better person as well.
Right. And that's where the gratitude side comes in. With your scenario, you're not going to be thinking about, okay, how can I mess his day up? How can I trip him up or make it horrible for him? You're thinking of all the positive things or something happy that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really our gratitude journaling is focused on the good things that are happening in your life. And what we've found is that tends to restructure and change the chemical makeup in people's brains. Depressed people have a certain kind of brain chemistry, and this helps to, for lack of a better term, wash out that stuff,
right,
and replace it with kind of a more positive, upbeat,
right,
brain chemistry.
Yeah, and it's easy to see that positive thoughts and the more that, and listen, I in my prayer met over at the church earlier this morning, and we were talking about the same thing. No matter what you do in life, the more you do it, the better you'll be at it.
Right.
I don't care if it's a sport, if it's being cranky and negative, you're going to get really good if you do that all the time. But to have constant positive thoughts for yourself, for people around you, strangers, whatever it is, it will start to displace the negative thoughts and see our lives in a different way.
Right.
Again, back to gratitude journal, being thankful even for, I'm grateful for this cup of coffee, or I'm grateful for my almost 17-year-old cat that likes to get down with me when I pray, or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You become grateful in the simple things in life.
And it's not always easy. I hope anyone listening doesn't think that, it's the happy pill that's going to change everything, and all of a sudden, boom, now everything is good to go.
Takes time.
That's exactly. It does take time. And even after you get good at it, those bad days are still there. So what we tell people is, whether you have one of our journals or someone else's journal or just a blank book and you're writing stuff in, or nowadays you can take the notes on your phone. At the end of the week, go back and look at those notes you wrote down. Odds are you'll see a trend. And the trend may be, I'm super happy that I have a house, I have food, I have someone who loves me. When those dark days or those hard days happen again, and they're going to happen again, the reason we have people go back and relook at those, now they have something they can anchor or lean on. So let's say that you have a bad day, but the thing that you're most consistent is you have an awesome person like me you can reach out to. So when it's really dark, you just pick that phone up and say, hey man, I'm having a rough day.
Right.
And that's what it's there for. If you don't focus on it or don't realize it, or it's not in the front of your mind, you may forget all that awesome stuff that's in your life. Looking at it weekly, one, it reinforces it, but two, it also lets you reach out in those really dark times if you need it.
Yeah, exactly. Is there somewhere online for a gratitude journal, or can they order one from you if they wanted this specific one from the Eden Project?
So we have two. We did the one that you showed, and that's a 6-month journal, and it's basically just to kind of get your feet wet, get you in there, and get started. We've got this other one.
Got your picture on the back right there.
This is a 1-year gratitude journal.
Okay.
At the end of every month, or at the end of about every 30 days, we have a new wellness practice. The wellness practices are things we're going to be talking about on our show. But we've added in, so this is a full year where that one was 6 months.
Right.
And at the end of every month and this one is a new wellness practice, like journaling, like box breathing, and different things.
Gratitude Journal, Make Gratitude a Habit by Bren Briggs, 52 weeks. And you can reach out to the Eden-project.com. Find out more details on that?
Yeah, so for us, one of the best ways is reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to provide the journal for you. But it's on Amazon. If someone wanted to get they can type in Gratitude Journal, Bren Briggs, or Bren Briggs, and buy it off of Amazon.
I think that's what people should do right now is go visit eden-project.com or, search Amazon and find that too. Because we're coming up on the end of our time. This is a wonderful way to start taking whatever's going on in your life and putting it in a different direction.
Absolutely.
Because the one thing that we find is that if you keep doing the same old thing, and that's an old saying, if you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's how do I, a lot of people are like, well, how do I get to that point where I want to do something different? I want to think differently. I want to act differently and try to do things that are going to be, better for me. Where do I go? How do I do that? And start with the Eden Project.
Start with the Eden Project and start with journaling. So this is one of the many tools that we're going to provide on this podcast. Mm-hmm. Next week, we'll talk about a breathing technique there's lots of different breathing techniques, mm-hmm. but next episode, we'll talk about the breathing technique that we use. And then we'll just kind of build from there. There's so many different tools mm-hmm. that are out there for people to use to just make their day better, make their life better, and just be happy. And
that's the whole goal of the Eden Project, is to help veterans and active military, as we said at the very beginning, to be better than what they are right now. That's Every right. day is a step towards healing.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't happen overnight, obviously, things like that. But, with a goal for the Eden Project to provide that mental health resources, and whether it is mental health, and sometimes outside of that, we discussed on a little bit on the last episode, but we will talk about more ways to volunteer, because I know that's a big thing when you get out and start helping others physically, if you're able, in your local community, wherever you are listening to this. That's a good thing for healing as well.
That's huge. And, that's something that maybe gives people their purpose. A phrase that someone coined for us a couple of years ago, and I kind of like this, where other organizations provide an escape from reality, mm-hmm. the Eden Project provides tools to deal with reality. And this is one of the many tools that we provide to, help people deal with and work with day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's something that's going to be not just quick fix, kind of regular, sweet thing. Hey, go off and do this and come back home to what you were dealing with before. Right. It's a everlasting thing if needed. Absolutely. So a big thank you to Rome at Trillith in Trillith, Georgia. It actually used to be a part of Fayetteville, Georgia. Yeah. And now it's its own little community. It's got its own zip code, I believe. Does it not?
It's got everything out here. It's gorgeous.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful. The movie studios are all being built around here. I can't say that you're going to see a whole bunch of stars walking along other than yourself and me. But Rome partners with you to create a better work day for you and your team with elevated office environments. So if you're ever in the area and you want to check that out, visit Rome at Trillith. Thank you so much for joining us here on the After Action Report, a podcast from the Eden Project. Wherever you happen to be listening to this podcast, and what other format, and there's many of them out there. Yeah. Thank you for being part of that, but also share, spread the love. Spread the love. Somebody, not just yourself, or maybe, it's a family member or a friend or somebody you just met. Hey, I heard somebody. Maybe you could, use these folks and let them help you.
Yeah, that's how this platform works, is if you like it, but share it as well. The more you like and share, the more other people can benefit from it. So that's our goal is to help as many people as we can, and the best way to do that is for anyone listening to like and share what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Tell them the website again.
It's Eden, Eden-project.com.
Eden-project.com. Again, thank you so much from the After Action Report. I'm Michael Stewart.
I'm Bren Briggs.
Have a wonderful day.